Yo, 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 it's your boy Madman Habs, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to budget in such a way that you can spend better, save better, and also relieve yourself of stress of being in debt, being behind on bills, and then figuring out ways which you can get the things you want in future, whether that be a home, a holiday, a Birkin bag, wherever that may be. So let's go.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thought.
So the purpose of this video is for me to give you a guidance on how to budget more effectively. Now it's tough. You've got rising costs, pay freezes, and just society pressures to spend, to look good, to be present in social outings, regardless of how much it may cost. And so by providing you with this guide, I'm hoping that you can at least take one or two things away from it. If you can take more, then that's amazing. But the first step is watching this video, of course, and two, just working with me and filling out the budget as you go along. Now, just doing this exercise probably takes about 30 minutes, but can be a huge game changer in the way you spend and the way you save, and give you structure to how you handle money as you get your paycheck and pay your bills. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to link in first an Excel sheet of the budget that I'm going to go through. The second thing is a paper document for those who hate Excel sheets. And then worst case scenario is if you can't download and print that document, then you can simply just freeze the screen and draw it out. It's as simple as that. So let's get started.
All right, so let's jump straight into it. As I mentioned, there are three documents. So we've got the budget in Excel format. We've got the template in a Word document without the Excel functions, which you can print off. And then we also have a list of possible expenses in case you run out ideas or miss out expenses that you may not be aware of, and this will help trigger them. So I'm going to work off this Excel sheet. You can see with the template that I have here, it's pretty much the same layout. So whatever I say in the Excel sheet would also relate to the Word document. And if you decide to draw up your own one, then just follow the setup, and it's quite intuitive. So what I've done here is listed a year each month. So we've got 12 months of the year. This is the year of 2023. Today's date is March, and first thing you want to do is actually do your January and February budgets, because when you're starting this year, March, it's good to see what your current or your previous patterns of budget is. So what your income is, what your current expenditure is, and what your savings, if any, patterns are like. So I'm going to go talk through these few sections. Ingoings, quite simple. So your salary, and this is post-tax. So the net pay on your pay slip, the amount that actually turns up in your bank account after tax. Side hustle or business, however you do anything. So we just call it business. Pocket money. So if you get money from your parents, student loan or grants. So if you're a student, share dividends. So if you have shares in a company that pays out dividends. Quick tip: if you every year in the UK, you are allowed a £2,000 tax-free allowance of dividends. So it doesn't matter what you're earning. If you got dividends paid up to £2,000, it is tax-free. So something to bear in mind. And then rental income if you rent out property. So ingoing is quite simple, and you list out all your ingoings here. And that's your inflow that month. Now, here's where things are or get interesting. So first, the best way to go about this in terms of outgoings is to have a look at your bank statement. So again, I said we're going to start in the, we're here in the month of March, but you should do January and February. And what I like to do is use my Monzo account, and it's amazing because it's an app. It's a and you get given a card, and I like putting all my expenses into here. So any expense I ever spend, I always use my Monzo card. My Apple Watch is connected to my Monzo card. My phone, I make sure it's the Monzo card that I pay for everything on. And you can list out all your expenses. If you don't have a Monzo card, really easy. You just apply online. I am not a affiliated with Monzo. It's just an account that I use, and it's definitely worth using. So use it as your card to spend, and transfer it money from your general account every month. So you can do that. Now, what I did was I listed. So this is inflow, and then we have outflow. So I divided outflow into 3 parts. One is your key expenses, which I'll explain. Second thing you deduct is your savings, and it's there for a reason. And then lastly, your general expenses. So I'll go through what is the difference between them. So key expenses, these are anything you need from day to day for survival and is necessary. If I was to put into one word, it'd be needs. So this would be your rent and mortgage. I used a 1-bedroom shared flat in a zone 2, 165 a week. So in a month, that'd be 660. You put your mortgage here, council tax, utility bills. I split them all because in future, or as you do this budgeting, when you look to make cost savings, and you may use, compare the market to transfer to another provider, you can see how much cost savings you're making. Internet providers, they're open to switching. You can get the same download speed for cheaper if you keep looking. Other things like student loan and other loan repayments you have to pay. Then you have transport. So if you need to get to work, and 5, then that's there. Groceries, this one you'll have to scrutinize yourself, because there are things that you buy in a grocery shop that are just fancy, and the things that you really, really need. And one piece of advice that I would give is do grocery shopping online as much as possible. That way you can see over orders which items that you are stable to you. Generally, it's the general food like pasta, milk, oats, maybe some meat, sanitary and toiletry products that are basic and necessities. And this does not include makeup. And by ordering online, you can see each week what you're ordering and what is common, what is a weekly common occurrence, or every 2 weeks that you have to have. And then I'll put this in grocery necessities. The second point on groceries is you don't want to list every single grocery in your item in your budget. So I created a second tab where you can list all of these things. And so, for example, all these things are necessary. Pet food, my cat needs to survive. And then I get the total here, and I just put it into here. So once you've listed your key expenses, one thing you need to do is actually really scrutinize and sit with yourself and think, actually, is this a key expense or is this just a general expense? I'll give an example. So dark chocolate. I don't need dark chocolate to survive. It is nice to have dark chocolate, and therefore it goes into my general expenses of groceries, but it's not a key expense within my groceries. So you can have like groceries 1, let's just say, and I'll put here grocery 2, where you might have another list of groceries which you just like. For example, I don't know, having truffle or just anything fancy that you don't really need, but it's a nice treat. So that's key expenses covered. Then we can go into savings. So there's a reason why I deduct savings straight after your key expenses. What usually happens if you find it challenging to save, you have your income come in, you spend whatever you think is necessary and then some more. And then at the end, you're like, I want to save, but I don't have any money left. The key trick here is you deduct your key expenses, and straight after you deduct or you put aside some savings, and then you look to see what else you have left over to spend. That way you've made expenditure on key things to survive, you've put away a good amount to save, and you'll be fine, you'll be okay. Savings I split into three things. You can just have one item, but I'll explain why. Before we go into it, one piece of advice I would give: you can have a single account, and if you're happy to split it out within the account and you can manage it, but manage like this, then good for you. But I think to help yourself manage things better, you'll have your Monzo account, which is your general expenses. I'm just going to give banks as an example. You might want to, or I highly advise, open up a bank account. Let's just say with NatWest or any bank, for the purpose of the example, let's say NatWest. And this bank account, you want just the card. You don't want it online. And once you figure out a good percentage you want to put in this rainy day savings account, you just automatically go with that when your salary comes in. And essentially what this saving is it's almost like an emergency saving that you can dip into if life slaps you in the face. And an example is you could be in an amazing job and tomorrow you're fired. Now, how much should that saving be? It's totally up to you. But the way I see it, and an example and a rule of thumb that I like following is, if I was to lose my job tomorrow, how much would I need to survive 3 to 6 months, i.e. the time taken to recover, rest, and look for another job and secure that job? For me, it's 3 to 6 months. How much do I need based on my key expenses and my day-to-day survival and a little bit more? Then this is what I will need. And that will be the number that I'm trying to aim for. Not within the year, but I want to contribute until I get that amount. So that'll be in an account where you just have a card and that card is put away. You don't ever really touch it unless you're in a huge emergency, i.e. out of a job. Second saving account is for which you will open another bank account for. Let's just say Lloyd's, for example. This savings account will be for your future investments. So things like buying a home, it'll be a long-term savings, buying land back home. I know some people do that. If you ever want to buy a business, it could be you're a student and you want to backpack for a year, so investing in yourself, or you already have a home and you want the kitchen refurb. So in a Lloyd's account, you'll have a savings account and you want to put all this money into there. So maybe in future, you put down a deposit. Lastly, within the Lloyd's account, you can have a second savings account, or you can have another bank account. And this one you want online access as well. And because this is the definition of saving is putting away something now to spend later in future. And some treats, for example, a fancy car, a cool handbag, or a holiday, you should treat yourself to these things, but sometimes your income doesn't warrant or allow you to, or isn't viable enough for you to spend within that month. And a healthy habit of budgeting is saving or putting aside money so that your current finances each month is healthy, and eventually you've got enough savings to actually buy that thing. Too many of us are trying to live a champagne lifestyle with lemonade money, and we get burnt with a hangover of being broke month after month. And so what you want to do is have a small percent aside to save to get this fancy item that you may want, or holiday or car, whatnot. And it's more short term. So I've also listed these in terms of how long term they are. So rainy day is something you don't really want to touch. Future investment you will touch in maybe the next 10, 20 years. And in treats, maybe every 6 months, or they're more short term than the others. You also want to have different accounts for these, just because it helps when your current account, which you may have one other bank account, where your income or your pay slips come in, your business comes in, income comes in, or your dividends come in. you then automatically deduct a certain percentage or set up a standing order, which I would highly advise. And working out these percentages, you can automatically deduct that from that account. So before you even spend on your key expenses, it was already deducted, and you spend on your key expenses, and whatever left over, you have for general expenses, which we'll come on to. So general expenses, what are they? These are wants. I labeled this as wants. Basically, these are things that you enjoy and that are privileges, but not necessary for survival. For example, eating out. You could survive day to day without eating at all. Nights out, socials, Amazon Prime, Spotify Premium. You can get the free versions. Gym membership. You could do, workouts outside and all these things. Of course, we scrutinize it completely, but in general, these are things that are privileges. So list them out. And if you run out of ideas, you can look on this second tab, which is the monthly expense tracker. You have your bank statement with Monzo, which can tell you the ins and goings and outgoings. And then you also have, if you're working off the Word document, then you have this expense idea list. So when you're filling these out each month, you want to go through your bank statement and fill this in. And also in general, there's things that you might pay in cash that you need to be aware of and also list here. Now, what you actually want is this number to be 0. And let's just say somehow you spend everything and this amounts to -10. That means you're £10 short. You either need to cut savings in your general costs, in general save less, cut key expenses, or increase income. Now, the good thing is, and the reason why I split out like this is because let's just say you're £10 short this month. The easiest place for you to go back in the green or a 0, which you want to aim for, is to cut down some expense here. For example, it may be that actually I can do with one less drink on a night out. And voila, that's back to 0. And these are things that you can easily change. Of course, sometimes you may need to adjust your figures of savings. So giving you percentages. These percentages are just things I made up. But you can do it accordingly to what you think is fit for your personal life. And also figure out what works for you. But once you've fixed that number in, because your income is generally the same, your expenditure is generally the same, your general expenses is generally the same, try not to touch or play with this. In the long term, let's just say this was still -10 and all the general expenses you really can't let go. But thinking strategically long term, what you want to do is actually scrutinize some of your key expenses, not remove them because you need to live with them, but can you make cost savings long term on any of these items? I'll give an example: transport. So could you, rather than using Uber and trains and buses, could you ride a bike? And maintaining a bike will be £15 a month, I think, other than the capital expenditure of buying a bike. Compare that to Ubers and Oyster cards and whatnot, it can easily go up to £130. And the amount of savings you can make in the long run is huge. Lastly, let's just say you are down by a negative amount. So in this case, 20. You're very stubborn about general expenses. You like all the bells and whistles that you get in your life. You're happy with your savings amount. You can't be bothered in the long term to change key expenses. What you then are going to have to do is increase your current income. So sometimes working overtime, if that allows you. Maybe you're a hairdresser and one more haircut in the week, so £290, £40 can help you achieve a healthy balance in your account, in your end total. And these are things you need to look at each month. Now, finally, let's just say it's over by £16. Again, what you want to do is get it to 0, because you've got your income here, you've spent on key expenses, you've put away savings, and you've spent on your general expenses. This extra money, you have really no need for it other than to either spend it or save it. Now, if you really want to be really strict with yourself, then if you're a spender, why not save some more? and put that £16 into a savings. And if you're someone who saves a lot, then why not just spend it? I just want to say one last thing on that point is budgeting isn't just for people who find it difficult to save and just spend. It's also for those who save a lot, which is my problem. And it means sometimes you can't live in the present life, or you may not, by spending just a little bit more, get that extra wonderful experience. The thing I just wanted to mention was I highly advise using an Excel sheet, just because once you've inputted these numbers, let's just say it's the month of March and you've put these numbers in already, you can simply just drag these across, and it's so much easier. So this salary is based on the average UK salary of 38,000 after tax. Gathered it might be 2,500, but more importantly, let's look at some of these key expenses. And it's really nice to see what this totals at the end of the year. So let's just say transport, you got a zone 1 and 2 Oyster card. It's around 130, 140. And what you could do is play around with it and see, okay, so for this every month I spend £130. At the end of the year, I actually spend £1,560. Now, what if I scrutinize this because my budgeting isn't great and I don't have any more time to work any more hours? I really like spending on going out and whatnot, and I really want to scrutinize my transport costs. What if I decide to get a bike? Let's just assume buy a second-hand bike was £100, and every month maintaining it's probably around £8, just in case I bust a tire or whatnot. We went from 1,500 to £200. So by cycling everywhere, you are saving £1,300 in the year. Can you imagine if you were to scrutinize all your expenditure, how much you could possibly have in extra income? And it's something both spenders and savers can use to help give more structure to your life, give more structure to your finances, and that's it really. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope each of the sections make sense, while we have income, key expenses deducted, savings straight after, and the general expenses. And then I hope that I've explained sometimes when you go under, what can you do to help or rebalance your finances. Start with your general expenses, long term looking at your key expenses, which exchange, and your income.
So I really hope today's video helped you structure together your initial budget, and I hope that you really make use of the templates that are provided in the links below. Remember, these are the things that help me become budget efficient and manage my money well, and I'm hoping that this could help you too. It's not the be all and end all, and certain things may not fit exactly for your lifestyle or your circumstances, but if you can take away 1 or 2 things to improve your financial situation and manage your cash flow and inflows and outflow better, then hopefully that happens. Last thing I want to say is, look, it's bloody hard to change a habit, so if you can make small incremental changes, that's good enough. First step is you watch this video, which is amazing. Give it a like, give it a subscribe, give it a thumbs up. The second thing is, if you just sit down just for 30 minutes and let me talk you through this and fill it out with your own information, that's a huge second step already, even without budgeting. So good luck, and let me know how you get on. Peace.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go.